Hi, good morning. We're here for public poetry. This is Amicus Briefs. Today, our guest is Pattiann Rogers. Pattiann is a poet. She is the author of 18 books. Her first book was Expectations of Light in 1981. Her latest book is Flickerings, published this year. She's won 2 NEA grants, a Guggenheim Fellowship, the Laura Hawkins Prizes, the Theodore Roethke Prize, the John Buroughs Medal Lifetime Achievement in Nature Poetry Award. She is a graduate of the University of Houston, Master of Arts in Creative Writing, and she's lived many years in Stafford. She's here with us today. Welcome, Pattiann.
Oh, I'm glad to be here, glad to be back, and happy to share some ideas with people this evening.
Oh, thank you. So what are your latest projects? You want to talk about your new book? You want to tell people what that's about?
This book, my new book is titled Flickering. And I had decided before I even started that would be my last book, because I was beginning to have some troubles keeping track of page numbers and where this went and where that went. And so I thought I was probably not going to be able to be around the publication process and be any help. I'd have somebody to help me. In fact, my husband helped a lot with this last book, because it was with software I wasn't acquainted with and things like that. Anyway, I'm still writing. Good. But I may send to journals. I haven't decided about that, because the writing of the poem has always been my focus anyway. So that's what I've been doing. And after the book was Flickering was published, April, or released, they call it, I also narrated the book. The whole book is narrated, and you can buy it through Amazon if you want, and it's an Audible publication, I guess you call it. Anyway,
did you read the Audible? Will they hear your voice?
What?
Did you do the voice for the Audible, or did they?
Yes, I narrated the whole thing. We were in a studio in Denver, and in the quiet, no sound got in there at all, because I found that out because about halfway through, I started fiddling with a little wire that was going across my chair, and they stopped everything and said, you have to, don't touch that wire, don't touch anything. So, but it was fun. The people there were very nice, and I'd never narrated any of my books. So, but I just thought I would announce that here with your group, in case they like to listen to narrated. Right.
A lot of people do that. It's a wonderful thing. It may return people reading poetry aloud to.
I think
audience.
Right. Poetry is meant to be heard. It's musical. That's so you miss that if you're only looking at the text. All right. So that.
Okay. Anyway, so we have the 7 questions. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
Should I read the question or you read the question?
I get to read the question. So
okay, okay.
Here we go. What's your favorite place to read a poem?
in bed. And because usually that's the only time things in the house are settled down. And when I was first writing, my children were, I think, 3 years old and 6 years old. And so we had, animals and people. And so it was quiet, and I could think what I was doing if I was writing and reading. So that's the answer to number one.
Okay. So what's the first poem you remember getting?
Well, this is a story I like to tell because I never forgot it, and that's how important it was to me. I was in the 4th grade, and my teacher was Mrs. Garland, and she was an older woman and very nice. Everybody liked Mrs. Garland, all the children. And so she was reading us a poem. She was going to read us a poem. And the title of it is, I'm going to read it, The Arrow and the Song by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I shot an arrow into the air. It fell to earth, I knew not where. For so swiftly it flew, the sight could not follow it in its flight. I breathed a song into the air. It fell to earth, I knew not where. For who has sight so keen and strong that it can follow the flight of song? Long, long afterward, in an oak, I found the arrow still unbroke, and the song from beginning to end I found again in the heart of a friend. So there's a lot to talk about if you want to go through that poem, all the kinds of the craft of poetry. The craft of poetry has many examples in it. And but the one that I remember Mrs. Garland teaching us, describing to us, that this poem had a metaphor. And I'd never heard that word. And I thought, what in the world is a metaphor? Well, it's talking about one thing and implying something to another subject. So the arrow has a story, and the song has a story, and both of them are they're why this can be one poem and have two different things going on is that they are talking about each other. And the arrow is a representation to the song, and the song to the arrow. And the arrow was still unbroke, and the song found again in the heart of a friend. They're comparing the flight of the arrow and the song to each other. And yet they're two distinctly separate things.
And that stuck with you for obviously for a long time.
Yeah.
That affected you.
I still get excited when
I could tell
what a metaphor is. But it wasn't just the one word. I think I realized right then that although the poem was a language on a paper, it's accomplishing something that prose doesn't. And I knew they were separate things, that they were aimed in different ways from each other.
Oh, good.
In most times, not all the time.
Okay, you ready for the next one? If you could ask any question to a past artist or writer, what would that question be? Or who would you ask it to?
I don't know what question I would be asking, or why who and what would that question be?
Yeah.
I thought I might not repeat something someone had said, some artist who was well known, because they would probably already know what I was going to say, or what I quoted from that person. So I thought about my brother, who had been was a painter, and he painted oil. He did oil work, and he did portraits, and he did scenery, and he did we have several of his paintings in our house hanging, and but he is gone now, passed away, and we were separated. And before, he lived in Michigan, we lived in Texas. So but he said one thing, and I think I would ask him some questions if I could. Now, he said that the teacher he got a degree in art, and one thing he told me, his teacher told him that every square inch of your painting must be interesting. And that stuck with me, because I think that's true. I was teaching poetry, and I teach this story, that you don't have a line in your poem that's not interesting. So that's what I learned from my brother and his art, and something that I understood he practiced too, keeping everything within the structure of the frame interesting.
That brings us kind of to our next question. What do you think contemporary writing or art gets right?
I think contemporary poemist writing, when we went to what was called free verse, which wasn't free at all, the poem is a song, and that if you throw out, you don't have a structure for it. You just kind of, okay, we'll have a line break here, a line break there. It loses its power, part of its power, I think, and not all of them. We've had some poets have written good free verse, but I think that what is lost is the poet having that song in the heart, and that you have to be able to hum along, or in your mind. The poem has to be heard, and that's one thing that lacks in our in our musical art, is that we don't have a lot of people who can recite poetry and make the audience or the listener hear the music in the poem, because that music is carrying the thought, and your body has to be part of the poem. Your body has to be affected by the writing, the music in the poem, to affect the poet, help the poet. In fact, I usually tell my students, listen to how the words are sounding, because if a lot of times you get stuck and you don't know exactly what the word is, you can hear the rhythm of it in the word if you listen. Okay. Next.
Okay. Thank you. If you had to divest yourself of your library, I've had to do that a couple times. Floods have come. Except you had to get rid of your books except for what would fit in one box. What books would be in that box?
I know that's that question about if you could only take 4 books to an island and live forever, what would the 4 books be? And so this, though, is
Wow,
not
that's a way better question. I like that one.
well. Anyway, I didn't have see. I know I have. I limited myself to 5 books, 5 or 6, and one book that I have gone to for a long time is Jacob Bernowski's book, The Ascent of Man. And he had that television program in series, starting with people, how human beings came on the earth and made their lives, and on clear up through the philosophers and scientists of his day, which is now probably not kept. He was older, and so it's not current, contemporary, I guess. But it gives the whole, and he's a very good writer, and the series on television, I think was, I don't know, sometime I didn't have a book. I hadn't published a book yet, I don't think. And so his book has affected my writing quite a bit. And I loved a book called The Pillow Book of Sai Shonagon. And this was a Japanese woman who lived in what we would call the Middle Ages. And she kept a journal. And she was a handmaiden to the emperor, Japanese emperor. And the writing in the book is very poetic and honest. She was not trying to impress anybody. She would tell all of her activities and how she responded to them and to the life around her. So anyway, that's one. And I said that, did I say the poems of Theodore Roethke? That one. And I'm going to take my own book that is that's a complete book up through 2001. No books published after that are in that complete book, but that has been a real gift to me, because I have so many poems. It's impossible for me to remember what poem is in what book, and I can go there because I have an index that shows that. Anyway, so those would be, and the Bible. I want to take an Old Testament and New Testament, because I think that's still part of the foundation of Western civilization. Many of the things in the Bible. So that's my answer to that one.
Okay, what makes something art?
I like that question, but I don't think anybody could answer it fully. To me, I like if it's a music, if it's poetry, if it's painting, if it's statues. I would like, I like something that I can't pull myself away from. I want to look at it, and either if I leave it, I want to go back to it, and that to me is the epitome of an artwork, one that's so that has the power to be in my heart and in my brain, and doesn't fade away easily. So that would relate to any of the kinds of art. And I want in my own art, I seek to discover something I didn't know before, or to perceive something in a different way that I had never thought of it, and it was a surprise. That's what I seek a lot. The music helps me. The music of the language helps me to find those endings that I like, and I like to go to and read. I like to read them, and then I like to write them. I like to find them, and I'm not very happy when it fails, and it does fail my efforts. So I think I look for that surprise in all kinds of art, not just poetry.
Okay. It brings us to our question. If you could read what poem would you read to your father?
Okay.
Read a poem to your father, and would you read that now?
Okay. My father was a very jolly, kind of happy guy, and had to be doing things all the time, very open to other people. He only had an 8th grade education, yet he was very creative, and he invented a few things and got them sold, and he didn't like anything classical. He liked the old hymns, religious hymns, Christian religious hymns, and I think some of the Stephen Foster music about the country, I said, because wasn't there a question in here?
You were gonna read the poem?
Yeah, I'm gonna read the poem.
Oh, okay.
But I thought there was a question you asked about what was your father's favorite song or something.
No. Just
You
one
didn't
you would want to read to your father.
Okay. Well, a poem or a song. I can read it. I'd like to read both of them, actually.
Go ahead. We've got about 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay. There was a song he sung a lot, and this was like when we went on vacations and he's driving or something. There's a gold mine in the sky, because he was always wanting to make $1 million. He never did, but he tried. There's a gold mine in the sky far away. We will find it, you and I, some sweet day. There'll be clover just for you down the line, where the skies are always blue out of mind. Take your time, old mule. I know you're growing lame, but you're pasture in the stars when we strike that vein, and we'll sit up there and watch the world roll by when we find that long last gold mine in the sky, far away, far away, far away. We will find that long last gold mine some sweet day, and we say hello to friends we said goodbye when we find that long last gold mine in the sky, far away, far away, far away. I went to the internet, and that song is sung by, this one was sung, the one I copied, Nat King Cole sang it. And so you can go there and look, hear it sung by several different singers. And it makes me kind of sad to sing it myself. I didn't sing it. I could have sung it. But the hymn, I would read him, and I think he would like it. This is not a hymn. The title of the poem is Hymn, and it's by A.R. Ammons. It's a poem I love, and I think my dad would have liked it too. I know if I find you, I will have to leave the earth and go on out over the sea marshes and the brant in bays, and over the hills of tall hickory, and over cratered lakes and canyons, and on up through the spheres of diminishing air, past the black set noculuscent clouds where one wants to stop and look, way past all the light diffusions and bombardments, up farther than the loss of sight, into the unseasonal, undifferentiated, empty, stark. And I know if I find you, I will have to stay with the earth, inspecting with thin tools and ground eyes, trusting the microvillia, sporangia, and simplest cylinderates, and praying for a nerve cell with all the soul of my chemical reactions, and going right on down where the eye sees only traces. You are everywhere, partial and entire. You are on the inside of everything and on the outside. I walk down the path, down the hill, where the sweet gum has begun to ooze spring sap at the cut, and I see how the bark cracks and whines like no other bark, chasmal to my ant soul running up and down. And if I find you, I must go out deep into your far resolutions. And if I find you, I must stay here with the separate leaves.
Thank you, Pattiann Rogers.
I think my dad would have understood that. So, because he had a Christian background, and it fits, and I like it. I think it's wonderful.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for reading those poems. Thank you for writing. We want to, on behalf of Public Poetry, thank you for giving us a part of your morning this morning to talk to us. We hope you continue writing. We hope when next time you visit Houston, you'll visit us, and
Well, I thank you for giving me the chance to meet with people, and